Welcome to Austin Eras, where we explore Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and the voices shaping its past, present, and future.
Welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm your host, Adam Flagg, and I'm really excited to have our guest today, Heather Wagner Reed. She is a dynamic personality here in Austin. She's done a lot of things. I want to take a second to talk about her highlights, and then we'll get to the actual questions. So Heather Wagner Reed is the founder and CEO of Juice Consulting and a prominent voice and advocate for Austin's creative and innovation sectors. She's been hailed by Spin Magazine as Austin's premier marketing and PR firm. She works with a wide range of clients, including major tech accelerators, international governments, iconic local musicians, and global Grammy-winning stars. The agency's motto, they add vitality to your campaign. Before launching Juice in 2007, Heather served as senior product manager for Beyoncé, handling her day-to-day management and global marketing during her pivotal Destiny's Child to solo transition. Prior to that, she lived in the Netherlands for 5 years, where she held roles at Universal Music, music tech startup Sound Artist, and the Netherlands Business School in Nyenrode. She also once worked at Disneyland Paris, where she helped open Space Mountain. Today, she's also a co-founder and director of the Space Workforce Incubator of Texas, also known as SWIFT, a nonprofit shaping Texas's role in the future 2035 global space economy, which is expected to be a $1.8 trillion business. Heather recently completed a certificate in the new space economy from MIT and produces SWIFT's monthly gathering, Ecosystem Space. She teaches PR and marketing for creatives in the Austin Community College space and is part of ACL University's workforce programming and serves on several boards, including the Recording Academy, the Texas chapter, Sonic Guild, and the Ann Richards Foundation. She's a passionate advocate for brand storytelling, a former podcast host of Up and Comers, and a 2025 winner of Austin Alliance for Women in Media's Local Agency of the Year Award. She's a global travel junkie, passionate mom of two exuberant teens.
Yes.
I don't know how you have the time.
Oh, hearing you say all that makes me feel a little, I'm like, God dang, that's a lot. That's a mouthful right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on the show. I mean, I feel like you've been hustling for a while.
Yes.
If I looked at your bio, you started out at 14 years old at your mom's donut shop in Pennsylvania.
That is correct. And it was actually in North Carolina. We just moved to North Carolina, and she was looking to start a franchise. And so we brought our northern donut culture to the South. And yeah, I started there at 14, and it was a great, a learning ground for me about hard work and what it takes to, make the donuts, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah, I bet. So you started out like at 14, you're watching your mom hustle, you're learning to hustle.
Yeah.
And what'd that teach you about PR leadership and people early in those years?
Well, okay, so it actually was really good because it helped me learn how to deal with people. We had all kinds of people coming through there. It was really a special place because it was a gathering spot in our town, and we were open 24 hours. Unlike any other spot in town, like it was at a time in the South where they didn't even have bars in town. There was no it was the laws back then made it difficult to go out and drink late into the night. So people would come to the donut shop and they'd have coffee and donuts, and we had a cast of characters that would come through. So I guess I, at that time, learned a couple of things, and that was just, how to interact with people and how to represent a family business, but, also be on call all the time, because times, there was many a holiday where somebody would call in sick, and my brother Chad and I would have to go in and work late night on a New Year's Eve or something, so you just kind of learn how business works. And then it never stops.
Yes. So you're doing this, you're learning this business, and then you graduate from high school, and you head to the University of Georgia. You go to the Grady School of Journalism, and you go, I want a career in PR. Is that how it went, or what kind of led you there?
Well, I was very, very, very much aware that I loved people. When I was in high school. I got also very into two roads were presented to me. Like, I was also very into theater when I was in high school, so musical theater. And I was really like, what am I going to major in? Is it going to be theater, or is it going to be, something like public relations? And then my business brain took over, and I felt like maybe PR would be a little bit more sustainable, You know how it is. You're deciding to go into the arts, so you're deciding to go into business. So that's when I decided to do a bachelor's degree of journalism at UGA. And Athens is an incredible city. It was only 4 hours away from where my parents lived, and it was as awesome as I thought it was going to be. It was really, really fun. So, and I got really involved in college radio when I was there. So that kind of opened up my life to the entertainment field and really taught me a lot about promotions, and it fit right into my major, and one thing led to another. I was diehard at college radio, and so I went from being a theater kid to, doing that, and it's like one door opens and another one opens.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed media, and various aspects of it.
That's
being
beautiful.
On radio.
Yeah, the college radios. I think there's a lot of unique experiences you can have in college radio. What station? What did that help form your music type as well? What you enjoyed?
Yeah, we were an alternative radio station, so absolutely. WUOG FM. It's like a very historic college radio station in the country as well, because a lot of bands got their start there. REM was living in Athens at the time that I was there, so they were even ancillarily supportive of WUOG. We had a ton of artists that came through, and with college radio, these are artists that are trying to get their start, before they go to commercial. But like the Beastie Boys came through. Well, the Beastie Boys PR person called us and asked for an on-air giveaway, and I actually got to go to Atlanta, go to the show and hang out with them backstage, just me and them and one other colleague from the station. And that was it was like a real pivotal moment for me to realize like how fun this business could be, and how much, how the behind the scenes is really there when you're in this business. You're just part of it. So that was a wonderful moment.
So you get done with school, you're enjoying your time at UGA, and some college students will spend a semester abroad. Some might have a year off that they take before they jump into the workforce. You go pedal to the metal. You go to Europe, and you're there working for 5 years in the Netherlands.
Yes.
What made you choose to go to Europe for 5 years? Like, how did that all occur?
It was just a really interesting life opportunity that came up. So I think I was telling you before we started, I had a lot of international friends in college, and all my besties were from other parts of the world. And so we had this like tribe of people. And I was, at that time seeing a guy from Holland, and he and we actually spent 5 years apart before I moved over there, but did the long distance thing. But anyway, I did, prior to moving to Holland, I went to France and I worked for Disneyland Paris, which was my first time living abroad. And that was a 6-month work exchange thing.
Okay.
That gave me enough credit to get my French minor, not my major, but my minor. And I traveled by myself around Europe for a little while after that, which was pretty awesome. But, long story short, I moved to Holland, after first I worked at a PR agency in Atlanta called the Headline Group, amazing group. They just had a big reunion this weekend that I couldn't make. I'm sorry, guys. But that was like my formative learning of the PR industry in that role. And then I moved to the Netherlands probably about 2 years after that. And I had the most extraordinary journey over there. And I had a couple jobs. My first one was a university, Nyenrode University, which was an MBA program in Holland, and that's the one it's in the 13th century castle.
Yeah.
And that was like another eye-opening experience. It took me out of entertainment, but it did get me to the Netherlands. And then I slowly moved back into the entertainment industry while I was living over there, and got some really cool job opportunities. So
that's a real transformative time. 5 years in Europe. What are the lessons you took from there before you decided to come back stateside?
Wow. Well, it changes your whole mentality. There's being in America, and I think sometimes you get a little bit, you don't realize what's really going on out there, because a lot of our news is very, the things we do see are very hyper-focused on our country. And so being abroad, it changed my perspective on everything. It gave me, a real sense of global awareness that I carry with me till this day. It sparked my interest in traveling, and I love traveling. I'm kind of insatiable. I try to get abroad as much as possible still. I try to take my kids with me. And I definitely feel like even learning another language, is really good for the mind. it's wonderful to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And also the other thing I loved was the family value system that I witnessed over there. Like, I really got to spend time in an family environment, and also just witnessing how others interacted in that way. There's just some nuances and differences, and here in America we have really great families too, but it was just different, the way people operated differently there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law of the last, 10 plus years is from Holland, and she grew up in Alkmaar, and I watched some of that too. And they got married. We flew over there, and they got married in a 16th century church. And it's just amazing. Like, the history is all around you, and they don't even really think about it. It's just like, here's the church, but you were at a school with a 13th century Dutch castle that you just mentioned. So what is your best story from your time there? Because that had to have had some interesting experiences. Was there a moat?
There was.
Turrets? Really?
Yeah, there was a moat. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say, like, early on, I would go to some of the social functions, and they were out of this world, like crazy events. The Dutch definitely know how to have a lot of fun. Bringing in DJs into the castle. Everybody's going till like 4 a.m. It was awesome. But the thing that I remember the most was just the friendships I made, because I was working in the international MBA program, and I was doing alumni relations and PR for the program. And when I got there, I was about or close to the same age as the MBA students, or some of them. They might have been slightly older than me, but I felt very welcomed. The whole class made me feel like I was part of the class. And I even got named an honorary alumna, MBA alumna, when I left, which was really cool. But it was the international students and the people that I remember the most. And my mentor and my boss who hired me, Carl Sampson, he was a visionary professor. He ran our MBA program, but I'll never forget, I just adored him. Partially because he was so unusual. He taught a course on the business of spirituality. Bringing spirituality into business. I don't remember the title of the course, but it was like a really interesting, approach to business. And that's how Carl led our team as well. And so he led with his heart. He was very, very uplifting, and we just adored him. So it was a really special time.
So relationships and really thinking deeply about the business is something that I'm sure has influenced you for a long time. And one of the ways you got back to the U.S. was through great relationships.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about getting back to Houston. Is that right?
Yeah. So this was getting back to the U.S., indeed, because I never thought I'd end up in Texas, that's for sure. I was looking in New York. I was looking in Nashville. I was very committed to the music industry at that point. I just finished working at Universal Music over there in Holland. And I was at a conference in Atlanta, back to where I started my career, and happened to, Matthew Knowles was a keynote speaker at this conference, and I happened to be sitting next to somebody who worked for him. And at the time, we were just chatting casually, and I told him this international marketing experience, and he was so kind because he said, his name's Ira, by the way. I call him Uncle Ira. Hi, Ira, if you're listening. I so appreciate that moment, because he recognized that I might be able to be somebody who Matthew would like to meet, because he was growing this brand with his daughter and his other daughter, Solange. So Matthew and I met. He ended up hiring me, moving me from Holland to Houston. And my very first moment that I got to Houston was pretty remarkable. I ended up moving into the apartment where Destiny's Child used to stay. That's where he put me up, and walk in and all their posters are up, and that's where my first impression of Houston was actually fully integrating into the family there. Anyway, so I went to work with the Knowles family, and ended up getting assigned the Beyoncé project right as she was leaving Destiny's Child and starting her solo career, and that was in 2002, and changed my life forever. Would have never dreamed of having such an opportunity, but I was able to work with her for the next nearly 5 years in all the day-to-day management capacities that you can imagine. So pretty much everything going on with her life. And so that was amazing. And I got a ton of mentorship in that role from Matthew and from the team. And, looking back, it was kind of the impetus for where I am now, because I learned so much and I got to work with so many people from around the world who really were the best at what they did, and learned how to coordinate with them on her marketing and, really learn the strategies about building a global brand.
Yeah, so I mean, at that time, Destiny's Child was pretty well known. They were a household name, and Beyonce was the lead singer, but Beyonce breaking out, a lot of artists try to become solo artists, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So she puts out in 2003, Dangerously in Love.
Yeah.
And then B-Day in 2006. So you're around for both those experiences.
That's right.
And what does that look like? Because she very quickly kind of ascended to a very well-known pop star, winning all the Grammys. What was that like to be along for that ride?
It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal. Like, I definitely feel like I watched history in the making. And, I guess we all had high hopes for how it would go. But, her first single from the new album, Crazy in Love, was a #1 single around the world, and then it just kept going. Every single song thereafter, it just kept going. So it was like this wave that hit. And, our lives, especially as a management company, I mean, it was busy. It was boombastic. It was unbelievable. The kind of things that were coming in for her, the kind of opportunities that were coming to her. I would get requests from heads of countries. I would get requests from, the brand requests. I was just like constant. We had to go through these requests daily, and I would compile everything that would come in down to a top 25 list, and I would talk to her and her dad once a week, and we'd go through everything and decide what was worth pursuing. But that was out of maybe 500 things that week. Like, that's how much would come in.
It's crazy.
So if anybody's trying to work with a celebrity and you wonder why you're not hearing back or why somebody's not, it's because the sheer amount of requests and the sheer amount of interest, it's a lot. It's a lot to get through. So
I'm sure you learned a lot about building, protecting, and growing a brand. How did that kind of transform into your next stage of opening Juice? Tell me a little bit about the time with Beyonce and the time kind of bridging just after that.
Yeah. So I think that I've always taken what I learned with her into everything we do at Juice, and that's been something that I'm very proud of, because first of all, it is true that you have to build a brand, However, in her case, the talent was there. There was no building of the talent. She did work so hard, though. That was one of the hardest working women I've ever met. But it was there. It was natural. So, I mean, when we're going through our discovery process with clients and we're trying to vet who we're going to work with, we definitely, try to understand them before that begins, so we know we have something to work with that we can get behind and advocate for. If not, we try to counsel our potential clients of, hey, here's what you might want to do, or here's what you might want to do differently. But in that respect, I think the approach that we take as a company is one of great. We still work very strategically. I incorporate, even if somebody just hires us for PR, there is no question we still bring all the other stuff that we know how to do. So that strategic approach, that strategic marketing, all elements of a branding or marketing campaign need to be considered, even if you're just doing PR. And that's why I really feel like one thing we did move to was being more of a full service PR and marketing agency for that reason, because that's my background, the background of many on the team too. So we can do a little bit of everything. But I feel very passionate that you can't do one without the other, and all the things need to be in place.
We're going to jump deep into Juice in a second, but I know for all the listeners that are out there that are huge Beyonce fans, I don't want to make this all about Beyonce, but tell us a story or a little bit about what it was like to work with Beyonce as an individual. What was her personality like? What was it like day to day with her?
Very, she was a very, very sweet, kind, individual. I loved working with her. She was very, very easy to work with. Back then, of course, she was a little bit younger. I think I was 28 and she was 21 when I met her. And I'll never forget the first day she walked into the office and we met. She was very shy, very demure. And so my first impression of her, she's very shy, actually. Now, she always talks about how Sasha Fierce was her alter ego that she had when she went on stage. And that's true. She definitely was very different on stage. But, being that close to the family and being in her orbit like that, I got to see a very personal side and got to know her that way. And that was the most special part about it, was just having that kind of experience where you realize somebody of that magnitude is a human just like you and I, right?
Yeah.
It's just that they are on television and they're in the news and they've got people wanting to fan out over them, and we're talking millions of people here. That's the difference, and that's why you have to have such a protective team around you, because that can be so overwhelming. How many people want to get to you, and even safety issues. Like, there's just so much that we had to consider. So you do become protective, and being on that inside circle, you become somebody who's always looking out for that person, or you kind of know what they're even going to want to spend their time talking about, because they have so little time. So many demands on their schedule. So you get very laser focused on that. So those are some of the things I remember.
So you left Beyonce's management team, and you went on to start Juice Consulting in Houston, and then very soon after moved to Austin.
Yes, I did.
I moved to Austin in 2007 as well. So we both saw Austin in that light at that time. So I'm thinking back to those days. But what was the first client? What was the first experience that you had? You're like, this is going to work. I'm going to make this happen.
Well, okay. So first in Houston, the first year I had the company, I had a number of different types of clients. It wasn't just music. I kind of opened myself up. I was very involved in the visual arts scene in Houston. So I immediately started representing some galleries and some artists. And one of the very first things that I'd say was one of our major clients at the time, or my major client, because I was just me, and I think I had an assistant back then, or no, an account coordinator, I should say, was Red Bull. Red Bull came to us through a referral, and we ended up taking on like 1,000-person gala for them for Red Bull Art of Can. So it wasn't art related. And, they were making art. The idea was to get the community to make art out of their cans. And so we had this extremely cool exhibition at the Houston Galleria, and we rented out the ice rink, and the whole event was on the ice rink. So it was really like, a big thing. That was one of the things that I really remember being so fun and cool. And I realized, oh my God, I can do this. Like, I can bring community together. Cause we were there, boots on the ground in Houston. I knew all the art people. So I made sure to bring all the VIPs and all the collectors and everybody out that night. And that was a blast. We continued to work with Red Bull for a while. And then I moved to Austin, and one of my first clients was Asleep at the Wheel.
Yeah.
Ray Benson, who I'd known through the Recording Academy. I was very involved on the board, and I still am, of the Texas chapter of the Recording Academy. He was also very involved, and he called to see if I could help do some work for Willie and the Wheel, which was the album that they collaborated with Willie Nelson on. So that was one of my first Austin projects.
That's amazing. That's so
pretty
Austin.
Good one too.
That's about as Austin as it gets, right?
As it gets.
Yeah, and he's so tall. That guy is larger than life. He's like 6'8". He's massive.
Yep, fellow Pennsylvanian as well.
Really? Okay.
Yep. So we always have gotten along well, and have just been so delighted. I've definitely done numerous projects with him over the years as well. But working with a legacy client like Asleep at the Wheel, of course, they're collaborating with Willie Nelson. That was really a great introductory project to Austin.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun too.
So you were very in the music and art scene, but you've expanded Juice now as in tech, film, aerospace.
Yeah.
How do you keep your messaging sharp across so many different things?
Right.
You've really diversified.
I think the aerospace thing is what's throwing everybody else off, because I just got that question recently from another group. And it's funny, when we always used to say, music, tech, film, those are our sweet spots because we're here in Austin. And if you think about it, that's what's going on here, right? So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I'm throwing space in there. There's a whole story about that. But the truth of it is we've been doing all kinds of industries for the past 18 years. We do it all. I mean, sometimes we'll get a food client or, a real estate client or a wellness client, and we can bang those campaigns out very well too. And the reason is because I think know how to do PR. We also get excited about new projects. It's really about researching the media, figuring out who the right fit is for it. But from a messaging standpoint and from how we tactically roll out a campaign, it's not just media. There's so many other aspects of bringing something out to the community. So So doing different based industry stuff isn't difficult for us. But, the space thing, I throw it out there because it is a big focus of ours right now, in addition to all of our creative sectors. And it also is because it's happening in Austin right now. And I want to help tell that story. And a lot of people aren't aware of that yet, but it is 100% blown up now. And so I got interested in it about 2 years ago, and I really started to dive in because you have to know these sectors as well. I felt the same way, though, when we started doing tech. It's like, this feels foreign to me. But, little by little, you immerse yourself in the community. You start doing these campaigns, and you start to understand, the sector more and more. And so I feel very fluent in the tech side of things in Austin. But that's the last 10 years. Now we're moving into a new chapter, too.
So I have so many questions I could ask you, and I may jump around a little bit, but let's talk about space, aerospace, and why it's blowing up in Austin. Who are the major players? What kind of got you interested in this? How did that all kind of begin?
Yeah. Okay, so it was like a spark for me. So I was at a conference about 2 years ago at NASA. And what it was is I was with the Texas Lyceum, which is a leadership group that...
I know it, yeah.
I was a class of 2010, and I've remained an active alumna. Anyway, at this conference, it was all about space and what's going on in Texas. And I was just blown away by the content. And I really had never, when I lived in Houston and we were surrounded by culture of NASA and all that stuff, it was like a totally different time in my life. And I didn't have time to pay as much attention. But nowadays, it's like, in addition to what's going on at NASA, there's so many other initiatives here in Texas. I mean, we have a huge representation of the space industry just right here in Texas. And specifically, I came back from that conference going, hey, there's some stuff brewing in Austin that I think I want to explore. I also began to understand the difference between traditional space and new space, which is where the industry is kind of, I wouldn't say divided, it's kind of overlapping, but, traditional space is more the government-run programs and things like that. New space is where you have companies, startups, rising out, coming up with really cool ideas of how to integrate with the space sector. And there's so much going on that I didn't even know, with satellites and, various things that affect our daily life, literally. And it's happening because we have this industry, the new space industry, and also the commercialization of space, where people are wanting to get up there and go have a ride or be the first ones on the moon or Mars, or it could be internet is being brought down to us, So, like, bottom line, I started to think about, there's so many applications of this going on and what's happening in Austin. So then I met someone who at the same time was in the space industry, Leon Vanstone. He had this idea for a nonprofit, or had an idea for an effort, let's put it that way, developed into a nonprofit, to support the workforce needs of the space industry, because there's so many jobs and there are not enough skilled workers. So that's how the Space Workforce Incubator for Texas began, was with these conversations. Leon, myself, and 4 others co-founded the nonprofit and have been working on it ever since. It's kind of my passion project on the side, but Juice has been doing a lot of PR work and event work for Swift, and it's really gotten off the ground. And I also did a course at MIT to just kind of learn the language that I needed to learn to really get into this. So I did a certificate course on the new space economy. That was fantastic. Highly recommend that.
So you're literally working with rocket scientists.
Literally,
yeah. And you're going out there, and so you think in 10 years' time, this is a little bit of a future question, but where do you want Austin to be when it comes to the Space Force, the space economy?
Industry?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we need, obviously, putting it on the map is priority number one. It already is on the map within the sector. People know within the sector, but I think what the translation there is, how do we bring it to the mainstream? How do we make space, first of all, Swift and my co-founders, and especially Leon, always say space is for everyone. So how do we bring that message to the masses? But like any other industry that's coming up out of Austin, I think this one is going to be one of the next things. And if you look at the trends we see with like South by Southwest and the programming they're doing. They did a ton of space programming last year, and it's no small coincidence, right? So because of that, I think that there's something brewing, Firefly actually did one of the first commercial lunar landings on the moon recently and just had an IPO. We've got, a ton of space companies and government organizations down there at Capital Factory here in Austin. We have Starlink and SpaceX in Bastrop. We have Blue Origin down in Van Horn. Houston's got tons and tons of companies, obviously, Intuitive Machines and NASA. So with all of this, if you start to map it out, not only are there tons of companies, but there's tons of jobs in those companies. So how do we get people aware of that? Because let's face it, the job market is tough right now, right?
It is.
So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this. In fact, I'm a good example of that, because I'm not. It just happens to be something that sparked my interest, and now we're really, really getting into.
So how would individuals, businesses, organizations get behind this and help push this forward? Obviously, Swift is doing a lot. Is there a way to coordinate, partner? Are there other organizations out there as well?
Yes. So first of all, we are looking for partners, academic partners, who want to have a Swift Rocket Lab, which will be the tagline we use for these labs that we're going to try to build. We already have a few that are brewing. I'll tell you a little bit more about one of them, which is going to tie back to my early Beyoncé days. It's kind of amazing. But we do have some partnerships brewing that are so close to being announced. But we just announced our very first lab at HiCam, which is the Hayes Center for Advanced Manufacturing in East Austin. Absolutely gorgeous building that is really, it's focused on manufacturing and also workforce programs, but we're gonna hang our hat there, and we're gonna start doing some training and some programs. But how can people help? I'd say we want to get the word out to institutions in Texas who would like to partner, and also obviously we're a nonprofit, so we're looking for bigger corporations and entities who might want to come in and help support this, because we're building something. We're going to need to fund all of these programs. Also, we do an event every second Thursday of the month called Ecosystem Space, and Juice Consulting is helping produce that for Swift. And that has been blowing up. We're bringing the space industry together at Capital Factory once a month, and every month it's getting bigger, and we're getting more and more people coming out that are, I'd say, some of the heavies in the industry. So that's really, really cool and exciting.
So it's building upon itself. You guys are helping push this forward, and I'm sure Juice is very much behind that. I want to pivot and talk about some of the other things that you do at Juice. Yeah. Music near and dear to my heart, obviously near and dear to your heart. You're on the Recording Academy board, which is essentially like and I don't want to speak wrongly. It's a division of like the Grammy Awards, essentially. So you're on that organization. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell me a little bit more about the musicians that your firm is working with today and what that experience is like.
Yeah. Well, the Recording Academy is the organization that produces the Grammys, and they do a lot more than that, too. They do a ton of advocacy work. They have a wonderful nonprofit called Music Cares that is helping musicians in times of need. And essentially, there are 12 chapters around the country, so Texas is one of them, and we're one of the biggest ones, so that's really cool. And we also have Oklahoma as part of our chapter. So I've been on the board for 20 years. I'm kind of an old, an elder, I guess now. It started back in my days in Houston, and I absolutely think of it as a music family that has, the board itself is full of people that, I'd say that I have very long relationships with, very meaningful relationships with. And in that, capacity, they support professional people in the industry, also music makers. Those are the folks that get to vote in the Grammy process. So producers, engineers, vocalists, songwriters, people like that. And it's just an incredible industry organization. We also have Grammy U, which is an organization for students who want to join the Recording Academy or want to get into the music industry, which is a great way to get started. But basically, by going to these events and participating, you're surrounding yourself with people who have been winning a Grammy, gone through the Grammy process, Grammy nominee. So it puts you at upper echelon of the industry just by joining. And that's something that I feel is important for people to know, because when you work with people who have that kind of talent and that kind of stature in the industry, it does help elevate your career. So
you've been around the music industry for a long, long time. Austin has its great music scene. Juice is involved in that. How do you guys support musicians beyond just your volunteer work at the Recording Academy? What does that look like for the PR firm?
Yeah. Well, music has always been, I'd say, our bread and butter be the right way to say it. Like, we've really built the agency, and in the sense of people knowing us as specializing in music. And it's been such a labor of love, because nothing makes me happier than to see a young artist or an independent artist that is on the verge of something great and being able to be part of their journey and have had a role in some way to help them become successful. So I've seen a lot of artists over the years start out at a certain level and then get to here because they've done the right things in their marketing, they've done the right things in their community, they've, really thought strategically about how to position themselves. And I feel like we are often in a position of helping discover talent, and then help nurture that, and then advocate for them. And people do, I think, come to the shows we promote. They do appreciate the diverse range of artists we work with, and for me, it's like seeing those artists go on to do great things or kind of grow up. While we're watching, it's very rewarding. I've seen many artists go on to get nominations for the Grammys through our work, and not just because of our work by any means, but there's that moment of time where you say, I actually remember telling them, you need to join the Recording Academy, or this or that. And those are the things that people can do to really make a difference in their career. One of our guests and one of your clients, I think Saul Paul, was on our show a while back, and he's Saul. A twice nominated Grammy artist, and just watching him, he's done so many amazing things. Also from Houston. That's where he came out of. Absolutely. Gina Chavez is one that I love talking about, because Gina was an early client of ours very, very long time ago. And I remember her and I having lunch about it, and she got involved with the Recording Academy, and now she's not only a Latin Grammy nominee, but she's the president of our chapter, and she's killing it. Her leadership is phenomenal. So that's another thing. It's like, I just can't tell you how awesome that makes me feel, and also how much, I just love being around people like that who are doing great things. One of the ways that people get exposed to music is through record shops and music shops. And so one place, and by the time this is live, maybe 2 months ago, but a little less than a month ago as we're recording this, Waterloo reopened at their new location. We were both there. I saw Youngblood. He just showed up and he was touring everything. It was crazy, but what an amazing gem of a record shop to put. I mean, not that Waterloo hasn't always been amazing, but this is like next level in terms of that location. Tell me a little bit more about your work with Waterloo. Well, this is a really good example of what I call a legacy client that we would represent. So I obviously a huge fan of Waterloo Records, and I was very, very lucky because Karen Kelleher, who's dear friend, I also am she's also on the Grammy board. We've known each other for years through the music industry here. She told me, on the DL, she's like, I'm, going in on this with my business partner, Trey, and we're going to be, buying Waterloo. And, the whole history of it with John Kuntz and his 42 years of leading that organization, and then changing hands to a younger group of people who, Karen's also got a tech background. She's Harvard educated, brilliant woman. It was just a great story of brand preservation and legacy preservation. So we started working on the campaign, and I called my dear friend Raul Hernandez at the Austin Chronicle, and I said, hey, we've got a story. You think you'd like to cover it? We think you're the one. And he broke that story. It was an Austin Chronicle cover, and it was just really cool, and these are important stories to tell, because this is what's going to have to happen in Austin to preserve, these institutions. It's just going to have to happen for so many reasons. I know at some point John's going to retire, and he might already be. I don't know exactly, but basically there has to be a new generation of people that come in and keep the culture of Austin going and tell it's a big struggle we see with a lot of clients like that we work with, which not all legacy clients, but some of them, it's just how do you tell that story to the new Austinite? How do you explain the importance that this has had historically in this town? And that is always something we're trying to figure out, because the new folks who just get here, they're coming in at a time when there's so much to embrace in Austin. There's so many things to understand, and we want that group of people to appreciate where Austin has come from. So that comes into our work a lot, for sure. And I always like to think of it in terms of Juice Consultant, we like to work with legacy brands and clients and voices, but we also want to work on what's next for Austin. So it's like this juxtaposition of two things, but I think it's really cool to be focused on both. And that's where, innovation and space and tech and all that is. But then you got the music and you got the film and the art, but the film is blowing up too. I mean, we're becoming such a boomtown, and with all these incentives and all that stuff, like there's so much in that industry, and so we've been doing a ton of work in the film sector too.
So I'm hearing that you're helping keep Austin weird, but also keeping it moving forward.
I like
in
that,
new
yeah.
areas and industries.
Yeah.
So I love it. Heather, your story from Beyoncé to building one of Austin's most dynamic firms is just part of the story. I want to come back. Let's take a quick break, and we'll explore your current passions, community work, and the creative quirks that define your Austin era.
Nice, thank you.
In every episode of Austin Eras, we uncover the city's history, vibrant present, and bold future. Just like Austin, your financial journey is a story worth crafting. At Collective Advisors, led by Adam Flagg, Managing Partner, Senior Wealth Advisor, and Certified Financial Planner Professional, your story is in skilled hands. From investments to retirement planning, Adam and his team bring together a collective of dependable professionals to help you build, maintain, and enjoy financial security. Start your financial legacy today at collectiveadvisors.com or call 512-467-1923. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
And we're back. Let's dig into what makes Austin home for you. Welcome back, Heather Wagner Reed. From motherhood to music to moonshots, we're gonna go through a lot of things. So we've been talking a little bit about keeping Austin weird. So what is a weird or quirky Austin tradition that you hope never fades?
Oh, okay. Tacos.
Tacos in general?
Tacos. Definitely tacos. I think the vibe in Austin, I hope it never ever changes, because I think it's such a beautiful, people express themselves so freely in Austin. The fashion here, that hipster cowboy thing, I definitely have grown into that myself, and have the boots, have the hat, all that stuff as a Pennsylvanian. It's kind of hilarious, but the sense of community, for sure. I mean, that's not really a weird thing, but I love that there are so many elders in this community that are, so pivotal to the culture, and they do, I have found, really want to reach out to the young people and share their story and their contributions. And I see now in Austin, there's these different blocks of generations coming up, especially with younger women, where you have, you got the 20-somethings who are doing really cool stuff, these startups and at South by and, C3 and various companies and venues and you name it. And then you got the next sector here who's like, the little bit of the older folks. I mean, maybe I'm on the tail end of that one where, they've been hustling for a while. They're, doing their thing. And then you've got the people that have been around for so long and have been a part of the scene. And there's definitely some wonderful organizations that are bringing all three of those groups together. And I find it fun to see how everyone's collaborating and helping one another.
Wonderful. Absolutely that's the best answer you've ever had. So thank you. Good job. What album or artist will always remind you of your Austin era?
Okay. I thought about this because I saw that question too. One, definitely the Black Pumas.
Okay,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, that's been, just such an incredible group that has emerged, and they were my soundtrack for sure during COVID and, before it and after it. I also love the band And You'll Know Us by the Trail of Dead.
Yeah.
Because we did work with them for a period of time and helping promote some of their shows and things like that. And their music is just extraordinary and epic, and they've been together forever as far as the band's history, and even with the new iteration with new members and everything, and I had a real closeness with that band, so I still love seeing their shows whenever they play.
Two big names, Black Pumas and You Will Know Us by the Trail of the Dead. Okay, so those are your two choices. Now, you said you like tacos, so if you have a guest coming, they're visiting you, they're here for 36 hours. Yep. Where are you going? What are you doing? I'm hoping tacos is one of the answers.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, 36 hours. I did have this experience recently because I planned a bachelorette party, which was about 36 hours, not 24 hours, 36 hours of having girls in town from my college days for my college roommate, Jen. And I had to put the whole itinerary together. So we did so many amazing things. We rented an Airbnb downtown, and we did all the good stuff, like went to Mount Bonnell and spent time at Town Lake. We hit up a bunch of restaurants. But, for me, some of my top go-tos, I love Justine's. That's a must when people are in town. And then you got to do the barbecue thing. So maybe Lambert's or any one of Aaron Franklin's institutions.
I heard he's starting another place. Did you hear this? A spinoff?
Which one?
Aaron Franklin's doing another barbecue spinoff.
Oh, another one.
Headline from last week. Keep going.
I love Uptown Sports Bar.
Oh my gosh.
That place
Uptown Sports Club is so good.
Sports Club, yeah. That place is awesome. Definitely do some tacos. There's a new spot, and I'm going to have to get back on the name, that is near my house, that is a truck, and they're moving into a standalone restaurant. But it's up near Side Kitch Vintage on North Lamar, across from the Yellow Rose. And I got to tell you, this taco place, they've been written about in the New York Times. It is phenomenal. Highly recommend it. And that's a vintage store that I actually sell vintage clothes at. Or vintage goods, not clothes. Both, clothes and goods. So I'm up there frequently. We eat those tacos like once a week. So I will, before the end of the show, I will get that name for you because they are so good. But yeah, I think... just in general, there's so much to do in this town. Of course, you got to go to South Congress, and you got to go to, East Austin to go out and explore live music and things like that. And yeah, I get overwhelmed when I think about it. There's so many good things. You're always going to be busy when people come here. So what is, having experienced live music at probably the most epic proportions, what is the most unforgettable live music experience you've had here in Austin? I think it's ACL for sure. I can't say it's been one band, one particular thing, because I see so much music and there's so many great performances. But going to the festival has been by far some of my most memorable times, just because you get to see so much at once, and it's such a large stage for these artists, and the energy, and just Last year I was down there all 3 days because I teach a class at ACC, and part of the theme of the class is ACL Festival University, where we're working with C3 on giving students in the class this behind the scenes experience and access and really great learnings from how to produce a festival. But in our class, it's how to promote it and how to do the marketing. So last year, Chapel Roan, of course, I guess I'd have to say that was great. I was also at Lollapalooza and saw Chapel there when she had that, the very first time she was on one of those not the first time being on a big stage, but like when the festival world reacted in such a dramatic way that it was all over the news, and I was in the crowd for that.
It's amazing.
It was pretty historic.
I don't know how she's going to follow it up with that first album she put out. I mean, I don't know how she's going to do it. It's amazing. She has such a following.
Yeah.
What's the most Austin thing you've ever witnessed?
The most Austin thing I've ever experienced, probably, one of the most wonderful things that we did actually this year as a company was we did the red carpet for the Dazed and Confused 30th anniversary, which was amazing. We were working with the Austin Film Society on that, and the media turnout for that alone was like nothing I've ever seen.
Can't imagine.
And we had all the greats, a majority of them, not all of them, because some of them are now living way far away, like in LA and things like that. But I think that was a pretty Austin thing for sure. And basically, I feel like there's moments like that we get to experience through our work that, we are in watching history either being made for the first time or history replaying itself, just by the nature of our work. So that's been a great rewarding part of it.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you? You've run the gamut. You've talked about a lot of interesting things. What's something people don't know about you?
I think this was one of the questions you sent me, and I'm like, God, what do I say to that one? Yes, let's see. Surprised. Well, that I can polka dance because I'm from Pennsylvania. Seventh grade, me and my best friend, we were the polka pals in our talent show, and that was pretty cool. Maybe that I speak three languages: English, French, and Dutch.
Wow, Dutch is not an easy language, is it?
No, it's not. And I say that, with a little bit in jest. I mean, I think when I moved back from the Netherlands, I was way more, I don't know if fluent is the right word, but I'd say conversationally fluent than I might be right now. But every time I go back to Holland, it does kick back in pretty easily, and that's really fun. And my French I've been able to keep up with that because we do a lot of international work at Juice, and I, over the years, have tended to get quite a lot of French work and French clients. But, of course, they're here in America, they're going to be speaking English. However, with a good, couple glasses of wine, I'm back in my good old glory days there. So,
tell me about the vintage thing. You said you're into vintage items. What's that all about?
So, when I was growing up, I grew up with my mom also having a love for vintage and antiques, and I was always trailing her, going to flea markets, estate sales, garage sales, you name it. And her garage was constantly full of things that she would be reselling at her little antique booths and stuff. And I guess you could say I just kind of, one day, especially it was right before COVID, was at the Austin Antique Mall, and I just had a moment of like, I love finding curated things for my own home. Uh-huh. And it's just so fun to be able to seek things out that are unusual. And I asked them, I said, is there any chance you might have a booth coming up? I really feel like I have an eye for this. I have a lot of things that I really need to sell. I'll send you pictures. And that's what happened. So with COVID, people were moving out of the antique mall, and I got a booth and have been doing it ever since. So it's been 5 years now. I've had a few different locations. The antique mall closed, as you know. So now I'm selling at Side Kitsch Vintage on North Lamar. I also sell like 70s, 80s glam rock jewelry at Vinyl Beauty Bar because I love jewelry as well. And honestly, it's literally just a passion that I have. I can't say that I look at it as a major business opportunity. It's like it's literally how I love just to spend my downtime. If I'm free and I don't have, and my kids are doing something else, I will still look for cool objects and I will try to resell them. So
beautiful. I love it. So I want to move to the future. I want to talk about where Austin's going, where you're going. One of the things you brought up in our questions a little bit ago was about ACC. So you're teaching at ACC. Tell us a little bit about this course and this class and what you're trying to kind of get across to that future generation of Austinites.
Yeah. So this is something that's like a real big part of my heart. I feel so fortunate to be teaching over there. I joined, I guess this is my 6th year. I came in as an adjunct professor when they needed somebody to kind of lead a PR and marketing course for the students. So Jeffrey Schulman, who was over the music department at the time, was about to retire, and he helped shepherd me into that opportunity. And I was able to especially from not being an academic, going into academics, I had to learn all the ins and outs of how to put a course together. But I was able to write the syllabus for the class and really structure the class based on how to best present, the 101 of PR, the 101 of marketing. So now I literally teach the class in 2 different sections. The first half of the semester is all about PR fundamentals and bio writing, press release writing, media list research, media pitching, community outreach, thought leadership, things like that. The second half is marketing and how to put a marketing plan together. So that's all encompassing of not only PR, but social media, advertising, digital marketing, event planning, strategic alliances, all that stuff. And then the technical aspects of the marketing plan too. And so with that, last year we had a wonderful opportunity. C3 came to ACC and invited us to participate in something called ACL Festival U, which is a program they actually have at Lollapalooza and Bonnaroo. That's why I was at Lolla last year, was to see how they do it. And they've been doing it quite a while there. And so we launched this program, and my class is one of, I think, 3 courses that are involved. The other ones are in live sound and the RTF program, where sound students and they get to go see how the show is working on the soundboard, and the other students are seeing how it works on video. So mine is focused on the aspects of the festival that relate to PR and marketing. So just this week we had Sandy Fenton, the director of communications, come and speak to the class from C3, and we get a ton of amazing speakers. We also get a lot of their marketing materials that I can share with the class. So when I'm teaching them how to structure a press release, I can show them an example. This is what ACL put out for the festival this year. And then finally it culminates with all the students getting backstage access, spending 3 days down there, listening to panels from C3 and other guests that are brought in by the guy behind this is based out of Chicago, Jeff McCluskey. He's a radio promoter legend who started Festival U, and he basically brings in a ton of speakers. And the students really walk away with an extraordinary life experience. So I'm really, really honored to be part of that. But what I also love is seeing them then go on to work in our local industry. I can't tell you how many times I'm out and about in town and I see former students of mine that are working in the business now. And that's what's amazing. So great about ACC.
Amazing.
It's like, this associate's degree allows you to really focus on your industry, get the skill set that you need, and immediately go out and work. And it's pretty amazing.
ACC is a gem. I feel like people totally underrate this amazing community college that we have here in Austin.
Yeah. I think though right now, there's a lot of incentives to go there with the, tuition changes they've had, making it free, and also having, Highland, especially the campus is next level. It's like any major university on steroids. Like, it's crazy beautiful. The facilities, every department has next level technology. So if you just go there and walk around and look and see what's going on, I can't see why anybody wouldn't want to go there. But of course, it's all about what you want to do. Do you want to do fast track your career into what you want to do? If it's something in specific sectors, or do you want to go to a 4-year school? Obviously, I do lecture at UT a lot, and I'm very grateful that I have that cross-pollination of being able to be in those environments. And I think it really, I have a son who's 15 who's considering all these options right now. So it's like there's a lot of things you have to think through as to how it plays out in your future. And, yeah.
Well, I have 2 teenagers. Sounds like you have 2 teenagers.
Yes.
What's a moment you imagine having in 10 years that would make you feel like you did it right? Because being parents of teenagers is challenging sometimes.
Aw, that's a great question. I think as long as I have the relationship I have with my kids right now, because right now I feel very lucky. They're both teens. My daughter's 13, my son's 15, and I feel like it's not difficult. I feel like we love each other, we communicate. I'm sure that's, not going to always be the case every day, but it's like, the foundation is there, and I just feel like as long as I always feel close to them, and that we get to travel together. We always take a trip every year, usually just the 3 of us, and go somewhere really, really far away. So that's been really a big part of my joy. I took them to Paris this year, and just traveling with them, getting to experience them, seeing the world for the first time, things like that.
Yeah. Did you go to Disneyland Paris? That's the question.
I took them to Disneyland Paris. Yes, I did. We went for an afternoon, and it was awesome. I got to show them where I worked and tell them all the stories. And but then we went back to Paris and, took a ride on the Seine and did the boat thing. And we went to the Latin Quarter, and we had dinner, and we did, just pretty much everything you want to do in Paris that you can do. We did all the highlights. We went to the top of the Eiffel Tower. And these are things I didn't even do when I lived there, because when I was working in Paris, I was younger. I wasn't really there to be a tourist as much. I was more there to experience it and live there. And I'm like, I actually never went to the top of the Eiffel Tower. And we're going to do that this time.
So you've launched a lot of projects. You've done a lot of amazing things. What's one thing you're still dreaming of building next?
Wow. Oh my God. I would say I'm really excited about the Swift stuff that we're doing, the space stuff. I really see something great there, and I think that it is really something I could see myself doing for a long time. We have such an amazing team, and all of us are so passionate about it. But also just, I'd like to see the integration of what excites me about space. I'd love to see it more in our education program, even with younger kids and younger grades. There's a big focus on STEM right now, but as far as like how space is even integrated as a subject in schools, like to me, there's something there, So my daughter goes to Ann Richards School for Young Women Leaders, and that has been a great place to kind of spitball ideas around. And I'm on the foundation board, so schools like that are getting excited. And in fact, Swift is getting involved with NASA. Has this thing called NASA Space Apps. It's a hackathon for students of, I think, middle school, high school, college, and adults, and anybody who wants to participate can pick a topic that's of relevance to what NASA's research is putting out right now. And Ann Richards is going to send a team to that, so we're very excited.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
A few more questions. We're almost done. I think one of the biggest questions I have, because you mentioned it earlier, is about the film industry here.
Yes.
We've got incentives galore. I mean, I think the latest session in the Texas House granted a ton of money there. You've been involved in that already.
Yeah.
Where's it going?
Well, we are very fortunate because we've been, picking up more and more work in the film sector, specifically a lot of festivals, and a lot of very diverse festivals that represent a lot of different perspectives. The film industry, from my perspective here, is like you cannot ignore that there's a tremendous amount of investment coming into the region, not just Austin, but Bastrop and San Marcos, and there's just so many production houses coming here. The incentives, of course, are helping that whole process, but we also have these great organizations like Austin Film Society that are supporting young filmmakers with grants, and we have Women in Film and Television, which is another organization we work with, supporting the women in the industry. There's quite a lot of support organizations here, just like for the music industry, and that's one thing that makes Austin so special. We've got support, and especially financial support for the young ones who are wanting to explore the industry. So I'm excited about it. I've been very lucky to be involved with AFS for a few years as co-host of one of their annual events, A Toast to Texas Film, and we did the red carpet I was telling you about, and we try to help them anytime we can. But that's another legacy here, just historically seeing the film industry that really helped blow this market up continue to stay actively involved, and lend their hand. I think it means a lot.
All right, so I have one final question. If you could have dinner with any Austinite, living or dead, who would it be and why?
I think it would be amazing to meet Ann Richards. And why? Definitely because she was such a firecracker, and obviously has just such an incredible, iconic female leader here in Texas. And, by having been involved with the Ann Richards Foundation and just being in that environment and seeing the kind of influence that her ethos has on these young women, I have to say it's pretty extraordinary. So I'd love to meet her. And
she still has an influence on your 13-year-old daughter because she goes to the school.
That's right.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my daughter, she's really enjoying it there. And I've even had the chance to have some interns from Ann Richards come to Juice. Now they're high schoolers, but these girls are very mature. And we had one recently that gave one of the best presentations of research I've ever seen, not just from an intern, but from anyone. This is really good. This young lady's going to Columbia.
Oh, wow.
She's already had a film selected for the Tribeca Film Festival, things like that. So that's the kind of stuff you see from Ann Richards.
I love it. Ann Richards is a great answer. Heather, thank you so much for bringing the juice to Austin's creative economy and now to Space 2 and everything else that you do. We'll link to Juice Consulting, Swift, and any other artists or initiatives that you have in the show notes. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show, like it, share it with your friends, and stay plugged into Austin Eras, where we tell the stories shaping the city we love. Thanks again, Heather Wagner Reed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.